Hi, I'm Claire. I'm a disabled artist and art witch, and today we're stepping into my enchanted library to talk about my first grimoire and why I abandoned it, and talk about how you can avoid abandoning your projects, or maybe accept that maybe that project is no longer serving you. So grab a cup of something delicious and let's get started. Alright, I have my cup of cardamom vanilla black tea. It is delicious. Let me know what you're drinking, or if you're working along, let me know what you're working on. And here is my first grimoire. I was at the very beginning of my witchcraft and paganism path. I decided Wicca was the only way to be a witch. Like a lot of us do, I think Wicca is a great introduction into paganism, especially when you've grown up in a Christian environment. I was raised Catholic, and this is an Arteza sketchbook. And the number one reason I abandoned this grimoire is I hate the paper in the sketchbook. I hate the way watercolor sits on it. I do still have, I think, 2 of these because I bought them in bulk that I am working through and still using, because you should use what you have. But that's reason number 1, is I really don't like the material inside of this sketchbook. The second reason I abandoned this sketchbook is I set my expectations for this grimoire way too high. So I wanted to, 1, learn Wicca and learn how to be a witch and learn everything I could and compile it into one book that I could reference over and over and over again. And I do still reference this book, but not as much as I would have liked at the time. Second is I had just received watercolors and I wanted to learn how to paint watercolors in this book, which the paper didn't help, obviously, but because I also wanted this to look like a gorgeously illustrated medieval manuscript, that didn't exactly work out super well for me. Because I was just learning watercolors for the first time. I'm still learning watercolors. I don't think I would be able to illustrate a perfect medieval manuscript now even. That takes a lot of work and time. So a lot of this is copied down from various Wicca sources on the internet and Scott Cunningham's books. To get my font, because my handwriting is awful, to get my font here, I went to a font website and I found a font I liked, and I would print it out and transfer it over with chalk pastel or some sort of carbon transfer, and then paint over it. Traditional Wiccan Wheel of the Year. Someday I would like to create my own personal Wheel of the Year. Like, for example, Lunasad, the grain harvest, Loafmas, whatever you want to call it. It's supposed to be like the harvest of grain and the celebration of the first harvest, but in our garden, in our backyard, our first harvest of grain was like mid-summer in like July, and our second harvest of our corn crop was in late August into September. So I would like to create my own Wheel of the Year. And also, I still had my expectations set so high for myself, so I hated these illustrations when I made them, and I didn't want to look at them at all. And now I can look back and look fondly at how far I've come and how far I still have to go. A lot of this stuff, like I said, is copied down from Scott Cunningham's Wicca books, The Wiccan Read, as written by, oh, I forget her name. I've definitely believed in the rule of 3. I definitely believed in never hexing. I only did spellcraft if I had a perfect circle cast and it was on the right phase of the moon or day of the week or astrological sign, and I just had all of these expectations for myself, partially because I think I hadn't yet deconstructed or began deconstructing my Catholicism. So I had this belief that everything needed to be ritualized, and I'll show you later on some more influences of Catholicism. But I think this is the first place I realized what an art witch was. I might have looked it up. I might have stumbled across one of Molly Roberts' videos on the internet, but I think I discovered that's what I wanted. And shortly after that, I started a second grimoire that I have actually finished. That was an art grimoire, and the reason I finished it is because the expectations were much lower. It felt much less dire. It didn't need to be the exact right information. And then a lot of this stuff, it's really basic. So this is my natal chart with like a sentence for my sun, moon, and rising sign, and I know now that there is so much more to astrology and natal chart reading, and I would love to learn more about it and look more into it. More symbols from Scott Cunningham's books, symbols from Pinterest, so who knows where they came from. I was learning how to read tarot. I thought I was going to learn runes. I still haven't, and I want to. I just had so many expectations. Now I look back on this and I'm really happy with what I was able to learn, and writing things down does help me learn. So I'm grateful that I started this book the way I did, but I'm not sad that I kind of left it behind. Herbs, crystals. A lot of the herbs I don't really have access to. This is where I started abandoning it, was when I got into the Sabbats, and there's just a lot of information out there, and I wanted accurate information, and I simultaneously wanted these gorgeous borders with symbols of each of the Sabbat, and I wanted it to be beautifully decorated. And I do think it's beautiful, and I'm really proud of what I did, but it took me years between the first one I worked on and the last one I did. See, Luna thought I kind of gave up. This is a bread sticker, because I didn't want to paint bread. You kind of tell I've given up there. And I finished this Mabon page and this cleansing page fairly recently, I think either last year or 2022. So I started this in either late 2020 or early 2019. So there were big gaps between the initial things and my later research. And I've got 2 unfinished pages, and I don't mind that because this is not who I am as a witch anymore. I painted this in the back, and I created these prayer beads, and I put it in the back so it would be easy to get to. And my partner pointed out that this is a rosary. It is a rosary, and it was a combination of some prayers I found on the internet and the Wheel of the Year, and I put 13 pearls for the moons, and then wooden beads for different points on the Wheel of the Year, and then other darker wooden beads for the new moon. So full, new, full, new. And I used it as meditation. I would still like to learn more about meditation, but I think I realized this was just too rooted in Catholicism. So to recap, how do you not abandon your book? Don't set your expectations too high. Make sure you're using materials that you enjoy, and accept that you're gonna make mistakes. Because I accepted that this book would be full of mistakes and take me a lot of time to work through, I had a lot more fun in it. That's another thing. Make sure you're willing to play in your grimoire. I think that's super important. Play, explore, be willing to make mistakes. And again, this had the same paper that I hated, and I got around hating it by using different mediums, or even in places, let's see if I can find one, pasting different paper in, or pasting paper over top. Instead of writing on this paper that I didn't like, I wrote on this paper. So as I worked through this book, I kind of came into what I wanted to be as an art witch and what I wanted to create. Here again, I'm pasting paper over to write on. This is just a whole piece of wrapping paper glued in. And I am really enjoying it now, and I've finished so many grimoires since I finished this one, and I'm okay if I never, ever finish this grimoire. So I hope this helped you feel better if you have abandoned a grimoire project, or makes you want to revisit it with kinder eyes. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.